Jefferson County, Kentucky, the county that holds Louisville, and it's actually we're consolidated city-county government, so Jefferson County and Louisville is one and the same. Jefferson County, Kentucky was one of the Obama counties. You only had 6 Obama counties in 2008 and 5 Obama counties or 4 in 2012. Both times Jefferson County voted for Obama, one of the few ones, possibly because it's the chocolate city of Kentucky. Louisville has 22% black folks, the demographic here, so it has the highest population of black folks in any city in Kentucky. And again, they voted for Obama. So good progressive place. It's also the state and the mayors, the state governor and the mayors, the executives have been mostly Democrats. You only had about 6 Republican mayors ever in Louisville. You've only had one governor in the last 50 or 60 years. That was a Republican. So Democrats have been running Kentucky and Louisville for forever, since forever. And so another thing about Louisville, Kentucky is its comparison to other cities. You have, it's not really fair to compare Louisville, Kentucky to New York or Chicago because they're such gargantuan. I mean, New York and Chicago and LA, they just make Louisville, Kentucky look like a small podunk town, okay? And there's only a few skyscrapers here. We're bigger than Lexington. Lexington they don't even have one they got like a mini skyscraper. They only got one tall building. We have a skyline, so there are several tall buildings here. And so I don't know. I like Louisville. It's a good combination between sort of the countrified, rustic, it's just us out here, and also this sort of corporatized, let's hustle and bustle and move them on out type of atmosphere. So the other cities that compare to our population, it says here 600,000, so we got about 500,000 people in Louisville. Now other cities that's below us, we have more people than Portland, Oregon. We have more people than Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. So the Albuquerque, New Mexico has 550,000 people. We got 605,000. So we have way more than over 500,000. We got 100,000 over 500,000. But all these cities are less than. So Las Vegas, Milwaukee, Oklahoma City, and Portland, and Albuquerque. So those are 5 cities that have smaller population than Louisville. They're a smaller city in terms of the people count, in terms of the census. So that's it should give you, it should give you some pride, but also gives you a good cities to compare and contrast. So Portland, Oregon is a good city to compare Louisville, Kentucky. Are we progressing? Are we not progressing? Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, Las Vegas, Albuquerque are 5 down. If you go 5 up, here are 5 more popular. You got Baltimore, Maryland, which is where the Quarters Company is from. We're shipping everybody who spends money at 4th Street Live is supporting Israel, and they're also supporting some corporate or rich mogul out of Maryland. So you're just sending all your money and tax dollars to Baltimore. Baltimore is a comparable city to Louisville. Nashville, Tennessee, they got 624,000. Washington, District of Columbia, so the city of Washington, D.C., Denver, Colorado, so that's where Robert White, the first black police chief, who was appointed by Jerry Abramson during the consolidated government when Abramson come back. So you have Seattle, Denver, Washington, Nashville, and Baltimore. Those are the 5. So, I mean, Portland, Oregon, that's a pretty progressive place. I think that's a good spot to start comparing. Portland, Oregon. Las Vegas, this place could be like Las Vegas. That's the same population. It could be Freedom Town, right? Lots of freedom here. Albuquerque, Milwaukee, Oklahoma City. There's, whatever association you have with them. Baltimore, Nashville, Washington, Denver. So you have Denver, they've legalized marijuana, right? So they don't have those issues. They also have our police chief, who was the first, not only was he the first black one, but he's like a really good one. He seemed really reasonable. He would go into a crowd and just shut them down. Here's what I think, and here's what's going on. And Seattle, Washington, which I think highly, I don't know why, I think there's like a big, tall, cool little technological building in Seattle, like a little, looks like a flying saucer. And that gives me a positive association about Seattle. But the big ones, Denver, Colorado, Nashville, that's a good southern city. Louisville, Nashville, we're actually just, there used to be a railroad goes straight from Louisville to Nashville. Nashville's about a 3 or 4 hour drive south of here. So Nashville's a big one, Denver's a big one, and Portland. I like those three comparisons the best. So I'm actually going to write those down. Denver, Portland, and Nashville. So you got a regional one, you got the ideal one, or two ideal ones. Denver and Portland are two ideal ones. Okay, so Louisville Mayors. Since we talked a little bit about Louisville, you get to see who we are, where we're at, where we're situated in the world. You know, not the small city, but a pretty, we're average, right? We're an average American city. Now, we've talked about David L. Beatty, and he established the waterworks, and then you had the first mayor, John Carpenter Buckland, established a public school system, but that's it. That's all we saw out of the first 5 mayors. Very unremarkable set of accomplishments from the foundation of the political establishment here in Louisville, Kentucky. So that's it's a little disheartening, but to be expected. It's sort of like Kentucky governors. You look through Kentucky governors, they're only in there for 4 years, and that's one term. They don't get much accomplished in the 4 years. Also, the federal government, they have so much more power. The only governor in all of America to ever be assassinated was here in Kentucky in 1900, William Justice Goebel. So William Justice Goebel, first progressive, first Huey Long, FDR New Dealer, was, against slavery, for women, against the textbook companies, against toll roads. We're going to be building a bridge here, and we elected a man that was against the toll roads. He was in favor of the farmers, the poor working class, the labor, the unions. When he was a lawyer, he always sided with the poor man. He was a politician, and he was going to change all of Kentucky. And sort of like the change in the charter, there's a change in the charter, and then he gets elected. So he was sort of, he was part of the change of the charter, and that's probably one of the reasons that he actually got murdered. But you also have that out of Henry S. Tyler. And Henry S. Tyler, he was a Democrat, and it said that he had left office, but actually he dies in office. Henry S. Tyler, 1893. He helps establish a new city charter, and then afterwards he becomes the first mayor elected to a 4-year term. So that's 1893. Again, we're seeing a progress, more democracy, more freedom for the general body, and you have 4-year terms, so that gives the mayor plenty of time to be able to do what he's going to do in 4 years. You got 4 years times. I mean, Fisher's probably going to be mayor for life. I mean, the Democratic establishment here is pretty, solid, and he's got no opposition anywhere, no primary opposition. Supposedly there's an Occupy man who's going to be running against him during the primary, and we'll hope to see that out. But the Fisher, stomped. Well, he didn't stomp Hal Rogers. Actually, Hal Rogers actually should have a pretty strong showing, and the GOP should have a strong showing too. But Fisher does seem like he's going to be in there for a long-ass time. So they established a new charter, then they got elected to the charter that they had just established. Henry S. Tyler was someone who did that. Jerry Abramson, he didn't, I don't know if he pushed for the consolidation, but he's the first mayor elected under the consolidated government, so when there's a new city charter, he's elected. And then you had William Justice Goebel, who was a governor of Kentucky in 1900, who had the Goebel election law. He wanted an election, a governing body, which actually there should be another branch of government, the election branch, to make sure that there are no bad elections. The Confederates have been stealing the elections for a long-ass time, and so William Justice Goebel wanted to have some sort of accountability when it came to the election of candidates. And everybody, they started blasting him, saying he was a tyrant for doing that, but it's not tyranny to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's Henry S. Tyler, right? There's just comparisons, right? Making comparisons, making connections. So we've talked about the first 5 Louisville mayors, and we talked about Henry S. Tyler. Another guy that actually, and we need to find the heroes and the good people of history, but I think the form of foundation for understanding where we're at, just all information is valuable, and you also can make references that are Louisville oriented, right? You could say, well, I haven't seen a mayor that bad since Philip Tompert. And Philip Tompert, he was the first German mayor, I believe, and in 1865, he was only there till December 28th. So 3 days after Christmas, Philip Tompert gets impeached by the Board of Aldermen for bribery. They said that he had a deal, an infrastructure deal, where somebody paid him some money. They said to fix the shit. They didn't fix it. Then they impeached him. They kicked him out. and James S. Lithgow becomes the mayor for a year, and then after that, the Kentucky Court of Appeals restored Philip Tompert to another one-year term. Or no, to another term. So, or to, I guess, complete his term. So, again, and that's another thing. The Court of Appeals, the Kentucky Court of Appeals, they just kind of come out of nowhere and they just say, you know, fuck your elections, and they just, you know, they'll kick everybody out, or they'll say, well, he should not have been impeached, so they restored Philip Tompert back into the mayoral government. That's 1865. He was a Democrat. In the first German. So when we make a reference to Philip Tompert, you know, his German nationality, I think, should come up because the 1855 riots he's connected with. You have Louisville burning all the German and Irish people, even though Germans and Irish people was here establishing the state of Kentucky alongside the English and the Scots and the Scotch-Irish and the Welsh. So the Kentucky Court of Appeals, they restored Tompert. Right. Oh yeah, so the reference to Philip Tompert is that he's a German nationalist, but also he got impeached for bribery. So you don't want to pull a Philip Tompert. If you're a mayor today, you don't want to get busted for bribery. If Mayor Greg Fisher is busted for bribery, if they find out that he's been taking, you know, money, political contributions is legalized bribery, so he is being bribed by all these corporate donations he's receiving, and he is a corporate-owned tyrant, right? He does what he wants to do. He was against Occupy. He is even against, like, the chalking, you know, no more chalking. They established a law to stop chalking. So you have Philip Tompert, who was impeached. He is a mayor of Louisville who got impeached, like, you know, impeached where he was actually kicked out. Not impeached like Andrew Johnson or Bill Clinton, but impeached where get the fuck out of office. I guess we've never actually had anybody impeached out of office. It's an important vote, but it doesn't exactly put forth the process for removal from office. The impeachment for bribery, the way it was done here is he was kicked out. So in a way, it's kind of like Nixon resigning, right? He was pushed out. He's looking at impeachment. He's looking at prosecution. So they just push him out. So if you pull a Philip Tompert, if you're a Louisville mayor, don't pull a Philip Tompert. Do not get fucking impeached for bribery. Don't get caught for bribery. Don't do bribery. Don't let anybody, but it's, you know, political contributions. You got to play the game, right? There's so much fucking money in politics. But legalized bribery, where it's public and everybody knows what's going on, you can only do a maximum amount unless you're a super PAC, and then you can just spend as much money as you want on any candidate, saying anything you want, as long as the candidate doesn't coordinate with you. So that's a super PAC. So we have unlimited, people can spend unlimited amounts of money in Louisville in any of the elections. And so, you know, just don't be a Philip Tompert. Don't get impeached for bribery. Philip Tompert got impeached for bribery, so don't pull a Philip Tompert. Don't be like Philip Tompert. Do not get impeached. So, Paul C. Barth. Yeah, a minute and a half to introduce this motherfucker. So, Paul C. Barth. He's the mayor of Louisville, Kentucky from 1905 to 1907. He's another person that's mired in controversy and corruption. Politics is the damnedest in Kentucky. There's lots of corruption. So 1905 to 1907, he's removed from office because the election was fraudulent. So they have a fucking fake election. No wonder Goebel wants his Goebel law, because you keep on having all these fucking fraudulent elections. And I don't know, like, how do you determine if election's fraudulent? I guess the counting of the votes. I don't know how they're doing the votes. Now we have the electronic machine, so we have no idea if any of the votes are actually being accounted. We assume the program isn't eating our votes and spitting out fucking shitty people. But that's Paul C. Barth. So his election was fraudulent. Kicked out of office. Get the fuck out. He was in there for 2 years, so he was able to hold on for 2 years. They're like, you know, I know I'm elected, it was illegal and shit, but I'm gonna hang on here. I'm fucking Paul C. Barth. So don't pull Philip Tompert. Greg Fisher. I'm just gonna talk to the Louisville mayor today. Greg Fisher, don't pull a Philip Tompert. Greg Fisher, do not be like Philip Tompert. Do not take bribes, and do not get impeached for your briberies. And don't be like Paul C. Barth. Don't win through election fraud, okay? The election is fraudulent. The Kentucky Court of Appeals just like they did in 1905, will rule that the election's invalid, and then everybody elected will be kicked out of office. So, don't pull a Paul C. Barth. Mayor Fisher, Mayor Gregory Fisher, do not be like Paul C. Barth. Be a different kind of mayor.